Hello everybody, it's Mr. Scott Evans here with a presentation for you about the approach that we're going to be taking with Year 11 and Year 13 this year to award your exam results. We've been working closely with the Russell Education Trust ever since the Ofqual announcement in February about the approach that was going to be taken this year. And whilst we're still waiting for exam boards to finalise some of their details, which we're not expecting till the end of March, I think it's important that we set out to you an overview of how we're going to be awarding grades this year. As part of the process, I have to sign a declaration that we have done all these things that are here on the screen. There's all sorts of quality assurance that we've got to go through. We've got to provide evidence that we've covered sufficient content, that we're happy that the work that's being provided is definitely your own, that we've given access arrangements to any students that need them, and that we've worked hard to be aware of any unconscious bias and any discrimination to make sure that our judgments are fair. And all the evidence that we're using, we've got to keep ready for inspection because other people externally will be looking to make sure that the grades that we're giving are accurate. So we've got a lot to do. How are we going to go about doing it? Well, firstly, we'll be using your work. We'll be looking at what you've been doing in school, thinking about what you're capable of. We're going to be setting up some assessments for you to do that we're going to do in chunks over the coming weeks. We're going to have the opportunity to prepare you for those assessments, and we're going to use activities that are being prepared by subject experts across the trust. And we'll be checking our marking inside and outside of school to make sure that we are acting fairly and robustly. At the end of the day, your grade is going to be a professional judgment. It's going to be based on all the evidence that we have, but will give us a chance to iron out any blips or any illness or any issues that you may have had along the way. The next 10 weeks are going to be crucial because we're going to be gathering together all the evidence that we need to give you those grades. So yes, we've got 10 weeks, and if you look at these sections that I've taken from the school calendar here, you can see the period from the Easter holiday until Whitsun. You'll see that we've got a couple of bank holidays in this period, so that's a couple of days when you're not going to be in school. And then you can see Whitsun there, which is from the 31st of May to the end of the first week in June. By the time we get to Whitsun, we need to have gathered all of our evidence. So we've got a few weeks now before Easter, then we've got this block of time after Easter, 7 weeks of good time that we can use to teach you and gather the evidence that we need. After Whitsun, we've got 2 weeks in which we'll be using to check our evidence, to quality assure it, and then upload it to the correct exam board websites. So we'll have all that done by the 18th of June. So a lot of people have been saying to me, so what evidence are we going to collect? Well, it obviously depends on what year group you're in and what subjects you are doing, but it will be tailored towards making sure we've got the right evidence for that subject. So I've put on here what it might look like for maths, art, and food in year 11, but it could be very different for the subjects that you're doing. But fundamentally, for a lot of subjects, we'll be using Mock 1 as one source of evidence, and then we'll be taking what we were planning to do for Mock 2 and we'll be chunking that up. Another question people have been asking is, how are you going to decide the grade? Well, as I've said, we could use Mock 1 if it helps, but we know that for some people Mock 1 wasn't their best work, came at a difficult time, and so if that's the case, then we'll put less emphasis on that. Some of you didn't even sit Mock 1. As I said, we'll look at whether we can chunk up a Mock 2 and use that, or whether there are parts of those exams that you haven't studied that we need to remove, because the guidance from the government is that we're not going to assess you on things that you haven't studied, only things that you have learned about. Whatever we decide, we will be clarifying it to you and giving you a timetable. So you'll be really clear of what you're going to study, when you're going to be assessed, and what that assessment will look like. As you can imagine, most of your lessons over these coming weeks are going to be absolutely crucial and will be leading up to a test or a part of a mock. These are going to be spread out over the 10 weeks, and you will know in advance what you're going to be studying and what you're building up to. For each subject, there will be at least 2 opportunities for you to show what you can do. As I've said, if we haven't taught you something, then it won't be assessed, but we have got to make sure that we've got enough evidence to justify the grade that we're going to give you. Teachers will use the grade boundaries that would normally be used, and then we'll look to adjust those in line with what it is that we're using to assess you. And as much as possible, the teachers are going to want to use your best work. However, let's say you only really perform extremely well in one area of the GCSE, we can't just use that. We do have to look at the full course.
Depending on your year group, depending on the subjects that you're doing, we will be using work from lockdown, either to support us in the assessments that are coming up, or actually as part of the evidence portfolio that we're going to put together. The teachers will make it clear how we're going to use what you've been doing in lockdown.
As in any exam year, it is possible to appeal your grade. I'm confident in our approach and in our system, and that you'll be pleased with the grades that you get. That was certainly our experience last year. But if you do disagree with the grade, then you've got a few options to you. You can appeal it, first of all, to us as a school, and we will check that we've gone through the process correctly and make sure we haven't made a mistake. And then to the exam boards, you can appeal to the exam board and they will do checks as well, including looking at some of your work. So it could be that they look at your work, they see what you've done, and they then change our decision. However, you need to remember that grades can go down as well as up. So you need to be cautious about appealing. And also remember, outside of any appeal process, you will have the opportunity to sit the exams again in the autumn if you wish to. Attendance is going to be really important over these coming few weeks, so do stay healthy and stay well. Think carefully about your routines and keep yourself coming into school. If you're not here, it's going to be very difficult for us to collect the evidence. We could use the 2 weeks after Whitsun and get some of you to come back into school and sit some additional assessments at that point if we've got some evidence missing. And we'll also apply special consideration to people who've been unwell. I hope that's helped to clarify the approach that we're going to be taking as a school. I'm sure you've got questions and we're happy to answer those for you. So please do speak to your teachers or contact us via the staff inquiry page on the website. Thanks very much for listening. I wish you all the very best with the weeks ahead. It's going to be a crucial process, but we're with you every step of the way. I'm confident we're going to get some great outcomes for you. Thanks, everybody.